The screech of tires cut through the Los Angeles night like a knife through silk. Keisha Iamide's hands gripped the steering wheel, so tight her knuckles turned ash gray against her dark skin. In the rearview mirror, headlights blazed like the eyes of a demon. Her heart hammered against her ribs as the black SUV swerved in front of her Honda Accord, cutting off any escape. Another SUV boxed her in from behind. She was trapped. In the passenger seat, the elderly Korean woman with dark sunglasses gasped. Her white came clattering to the floor. Mrs. Park, as she had introduced herself just 20 minutes ago, reached out blindly, her frail fingers grasping at nothing but air. The woman was blind, helpless, vulnerable. Keisha saw the window of the front SUV roll down. Time slowed to a crawl. She saw the glint of metal. A gun. The barrel was pointed directly at them. Her military training from her days as a nurse at Lagos General Hospital kicked in. Assess. Decide. Act. No time for fear. No time for questions. Mama, down. Get down now. Keisha screamed in her thick Nigerian accent, her voice raw with urgency. She grabbed Mrs. Park's head with her right hand and shoved the old woman down toward the floor. With her left hand, she did the only thing she could think of. She slammed her foot on the accelerator with every ounce of strength in her body. The Honda Accord lurched forward like a wounded animal, making one last desperate charge. The engine roared. The speedometer needle shot up. 40, 50, 60 miles per hour in the span of 3 seconds. Keisha aimed straight for the SUV's side panel. She wasn't trying to escape. She was trying to survive. And the only way to survive was to attack first. The impact was catastrophic. Metal screamed against metal. The sound was deafening, like the world itself was being torn apart. The front of Keisha's car crumpled like paper. The airbag exploded in her face with the force of a bomb, slamming into her chest and face. Her head whipped forward, then back, then cracked against the steering wheel. Pain exploded behind her eyes. Blood, hot and sticky, ran down her forehead, blinding her left eye. Glass shattered everywhere. The windshield became a spider web of cracks before exploding inward in a shower of glittering fragments. Keisha felt sharp stings across her arms and face as the glass cut into her skin. The car spun. Once. Twice. She lost count. The world became a blur of lights and darkness and motion. Then came the gunfire. Loud shots that sounded like firecrackers but carried the weight of death. More tires screeching. Voices shouting in Korean. The SUV she had hit was disabled, steam hissing from its destroyed engine. But there were more vehicles now. Where did they come from? Through her blurred vision and the blood running into her eyes, Keisha saw men in dark suits pouring out of cars she hadn't even noticed arriving. They moved with military precision, weapons drawn, taking cover behind open car doors. The air filled with the acrid smell of gunpowder and burnt rubber. Mrs. Park was screaming. Not in English. In Korean. A continuous stream of terrified words that Keisha couldn't understand but felt in her bones. The old woman was disoriented, her hands flailing, trying to understand what was happening in her world of permanent darkness. Keisha's ears rang like church bells. Everything sounded muffled, distant, like she was underwater. But her body moved on instinct. She unbuckled her seatbelt with trembling, bloody fingers. The simple click of the release seemed to take forever. She reached over to Mrs. Park, feeling for the woman's seatbelt, and released it too. "I get you, Mama. I get you," Keisha whispered, her voice hoarse and shaking. She pulled Mrs. Park toward her, shielding the old woman's body with her own. Keisha draped herself over Mrs. Park like a human blanket, protecting her from the chaos erupting around them. Bullets pinged off metal. Men shouted commands. Footsteps pounded on asphalt. Keisha's mind raced even as her body shook with adrenaline. What had she driven into? Who was this old woman really? Why were people trying to kill her? And why had Keisha just destroyed her car, her only source of income, and possibly her life, for a stranger? But even as these questions flooded her mind, she knew the answer. Because Mrs. Park was blind. Because she was helpless. Because back in Lagos, at the hospital, Keisha had taken an oath to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. That oath didn't end just because she was now driving Uber in Los Angeles instead of working in an emergency room. "Stay with me, Mama. No move. Stay with me," Keisha repeated, her Nigerian accent thick with fear and determination. She could feel Mrs. Park's rapid heartbeat against her own chest. The old woman had stopped screaming and was now whimpering, clutching Keisha's arm with surprising strength. The gunfight intensified. Keisha squeezed her eyes shut, praying to every deity she knew. She thought of her daughter, Amara, 6 years old, asthma, waiting at home with Mrs. Chun, the neighbor. Who would take care of her baby if Keisha died tonight in this crashed car in the middle of a gang where she didn't understand? Then, as suddenly as it began, the shooting stopped. The silence that followed was almost worse than the noise. Keisha's breath came in ragged gasps. She could hear footsteps approaching the car. Heavy, purposeful, multiple sets. The driver's side door was wrenched open with such force it nearly came off its hinges. Cool night air rushed in, carrying with it the smell of gun smoke and expensive cologne. Keisha looked up, blinking blood out of her eyes. A man stood there, late 30s, sharp features that could have been carved from stone, dark eyes that held no warmth, only calculation. He wore an immaculate black suit that probably cost more than Keisha made in 3 months of Uber driving. But it was his presence that struck her most. He radiated power and danger like heat from a furnace. Have you ever risked everything for someone you just met? Drop a comment below and let us know what you would have done in Keisha's situation. And if you're hooked by this story already, smash that like button and subscribe because this story is just getting started. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. The man's eyes scanned the wreckage of the car, then landed on Mrs. Park still huddled under Keisha's protective embrace. His stone face cracked. Just for a moment, Keisha saw something flash in his eyes. Relief? Fear? Love? He spoke fluently in Korean, his voice sharp and commanding. Other men in suits rushed forward, but he held up a hand, stopping them. He crouched down, his expensive shoes crunching on broken glass, and reached into the car. His hands, surprisingly gentle, touched Mrs. Park's face. Iomioni, he said softly. Mother. Even Keisha, who spoke no Korean, understood that word. The tenderness in his voice was completely at odds with the cold violence that had just erupted around them. Mrs. Park's face transformed. Her blind eyes, hidden behind cracked sunglasses, turned toward the sound of his voice. She reached up with trembling hands and found his face. Hyun-woo, she whispered. My son. Then she broke into rapid Korean, gesturing toward Keisha. The man, Hyun-woo, turned his attention to Keisha for the first time, really looked at her. His eyes traveled from her bloody face to the way she still had her arms wrapped protectively around his mother. Something shifted in his expression. It wasn't quite respect, but it was close. You're hurt, he said in perfect English, his accent barely noticeable. It wasn't a question. It was an observation. Clinical. Detached. I'm fine, Keisha managed to say, though her head throbbed and her vision kept blurring. She tried to sit up, to move away, but her body wouldn't cooperate. The adrenaline was wearing off, and shock was setting in. Hyun-woo stood and barked orders in Korean. 2 men immediately came forward with a medical kit. Another brought a stretcher. They moved with military efficiency, as if treating casualties in the middle of a street shootout was just another Tuesday night. Wait, Keisha said, her voice stronger now despite the pain. My daughter, Amara. She's with my neighbor, Mrs. Chun. Apartment 3B on Normandy Avenue. She's only 6. She has asthma. If something happens to me, someone needs to check on her. Please. The words tumbled out in a desperate rush. Hyun-woo studied her for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone and spoke quietly to someone. When he finished, he looked back at Keisha. Your daughter is being checked on as we speak. She's safe. How do I know you're telling the truth? Keisha challenged, even though she was in no position to challenge anyone. A ghost of a smile touched Hyun-woo's lips. You don't. But you also don't have a choice. He gestured to the medics. Take care of her injuries. Be gentle. She saved my mother's life. As the medics carefully extracted Keisha from the wreckage, she caught sight of the carnage around her. 3 bodies lay motionless on the ground, covered with dark sheets. The SUV that had tried to box her in was riddled with bullet holes. Her Honda Accord, her livelihood, was completely destroyed. The front end looked like it had been fed through a trash compactor. Police sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Hyun-woo heard them too. He said something sharp in Korean, and suddenly everyone moved with even greater urgency. Mrs. Park was already being helped into a black sedan. The medics were trying to lift Keisha onto a stretcher. No, Keisha protested weakly. I need to go home. My daughter. The police. I need to give a statement. Hyun-woo crouched down beside her again, his face level with hers. This close, she could see that his eyes weren't entirely cold. There was something else there. Something complicated. The police cannot help you now. The men who tried to kill my mother tonight, they saw you. They know your face. And they will come for you to finish what they started. Do you understand? Keisha's blood ran cold. What are you saying? I'm saying that by saving my mother, you entered a world you don't understand. And the only way you survive now is if you come with me. His voice was matter of fact, as if he was explaining something obvious to a child. You're kidnapping me? Keisha tried to push the medics away, but her body betrayed her. She was too weak, too injured. I'm protecting you, Hyun-woo corrected. There's a difference. Now, you can come willingly, or my men can carry you. But either way, you're coming. The police are 30 seconds away, and trust me, you don't want to be here when they arrive. Questions you can't answer. Reports that will flag your immigration status. A destroyed vehicle registered in your name at the scene of multiple homicides. How do you think that plays out for you? He was right, and Keisha hated that he was right. She thought of Amara, thought of her precarious visa situation, thought of how she was already 1 paycheck away from eviction. This man, whoever he was, had just laid out exactly how her life could spiral into an even worse nightmare than it already was. Fine, she whispered, her eyes closing as exhaustion and pain overwhelmed her. But if anything happens to my daughter, I swear to God. Nothing will happen to your daughter, Hyunwoo interrupted, his voice carrying absolute certainty. You have my word. And in my world, that means something. The last thing Keisha remembered before losing consciousness was being lifted into a vehicle, the smell of leather seats, and Mrs. Park's weathered hand reaching out to hold hers. When Keisha woke up, she had no idea how much time had passed. Her first sensation was softness. She was lying on something incredibly comfortable. The second sensation was pain. Her head throbbed with each heartbeat, and her body felt like it had been thrown down a flight of stairs. She forced her eyes open and immediately regretted it. Bright light stabbed into her skull. She blinked, waiting for her vision to adjust. Slowly, the room came into focus. She was in a bedroom. No, not just a bedroom. A luxury suite that probably cost more per night than she made in a month. The walls were painted a soft cream color. Original artwork hung in expensive frames. The bed she was lying on had to be king-sized, maybe bigger, with sheets that felt like they were woven from clouds. And 4 drip was attached to her arm, the clear liquid slowly feeding into her vein. Her head was bandaged, and when she touched her face, she felt more bandages and the sting of antiseptic. Panic seized her chest. Where was she? Where was Amara? What time was it? She tried to sit up, and the room spun violently. A wave of nausea crashed over her, and she had to lie back down, breathing hard. A door opened. A man entered, wearing a white coat and carrying a tablet. He was Korean, probably in his 50s, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Ms. Iamide, he said in lightly accented English. Please don't try to move too quickly. You have a concussion and multiple lacerations. You're very lucky. A few inches in a different direction, and we'd be having a very different conversation. Where am I? Keisha's voice came out as a croak. Her throat was dry as sand. You're safe, the doctor replied, checking the 4-bag. That's what matters right now. That's not an answer. Keisha shot back, some of her Nigerian fire returning despite her condition. Where is my daughter? What time is it? How long have I been here? The doctor hesitated, then seemed to make a decision. You've been unconscious for about 18 hours. It's currently 2 in the afternoon. As for your daughter, Mr. Park has ensured she's being cared for. And as for where you are, this is Mr. Park's private residence. You're in one of the guest suites. 18 hours. Keisha's mind reeled. Amara must be terrified. Mrs. Chun probably thought Keisha was dead. And Mr. Park, Hyunwoo Park, the man with the cold eyes and the gentle hands when he touched his mother. I need to call my daughter, Keisha said, trying again to sit up. This time she managed it, though the room tilted dangerously. Right now? I need to hear her voice. The doctor nodded and pulled out a phone. He dialed a number and handed it to Keisha. It rang twice before a small, familiar voice answered. Hello, Amara? Baby, it's Mama. Keisha's voice cracked with emotion. Tears she hadn't known she was holding back suddenly flooded down her cheeks. Mama, where are you? Mrs. Chin said you had to help someone, and you'd be back soon, but you didn't come back, and I was scared and the words tumbled out in the way only a frightened 6-year-old could manage. I know, baby. I know. I'm so sorry. Mama had an accident, but I'm okay. I'm safe. Are you okay? Did you have your inhaler this morning? Yes, Mama. Mrs. Chin made sure. But when are you coming home? I miss you. Amara's voice was small and sad, and it broke Keisha's heart into 1,000 pieces. Soon, my love. Very soon. I promise. Can you be a big girl for Mama, just a little while longer? Can you be brave? I'm always brave, Amara said with the confidence only children possess. You told me I'm your lioness cub. Keisha smiled through her tears. Yes, you are. My strong lioness cub. I love you so much, Amara. More than all the stars in the sky. I love you more than all the jollof rice in the world, Amara replied. And despite everything, Keisha laughed. It hurt her ribs, but she laughed. They talked for a few more minutes before Mrs. Chun gently took the phone, assuring Keisha that Amara was fine, that some very polite men had come by with money for groceries and anything the child might need. Mrs. Chun, bless her soul, asked no questions. She simply promised to take care of Amara as if she were her own granddaughter. When the call ended, Keisha handed the phone back to the doctor. Some of the panic had eased, but now reality was setting in. She was trapped in the home of a man she didn't know, a man who clearly operated outside the law, a man whose mother she had saved. Mr. Park would like to speak with you when you're feeling strong enough, the doctor said, making notes on his tablet. But there's no rush. Your health comes first. I'm strong enough now, Keisha said, though her head disagreed with a sharp throb of pain. I want answers. I want to know what the hell I drove into last night. The doctor looked uncertain. Perhaps you should rest a bit more. I said I'm ready. Keisha's voice carried the authority of someone who had worked in emergency rooms, where every second counted. Tell Mr. Park I want to see him. Now. The doctor nodded and left. Keisha took the opportunity to assess her injuries more carefully. Her arms were covered in small cuts from the glass, all cleaned and bandaged. Her head wound was the worst of it. Her ribs ached but didn't feel broken. She'd been incredibly lucky. She looked around the room more carefully now. There were fresh clothes laid out on a chair. Women's clothes in what appeared to be her size. How did they know? The thought unsettled her. She pushed it aside. One crisis at a time. 10 minutes later, the door opened again. This time it wasn't the doctor. Hyun-woo Park entered, and somehow he seemed even more imposing in daylight. He wore dark slacks and a crisp white shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his forearms. Without the suit jacket, she could see he was lean but muscular. A man who clearly took care of himself. He studied her with those same calculating eyes from last night. "You look better than you did 18 hours ago," he said. "The doctor says you'll make a full recovery." "Spare me the pleasantries," Keisha said, her Nigerian accent sharpening with irritation. "You want to tell me when day happened? What kind of walla I enter?" She caught herself and switched back to clearer English. "What exactly happened last night? Who were those people? And who are you really?" Hyun-woo pulled up a chair and sat down, maintaining a respectful distance. "The people who attacked us last night were members of the Choi Syndicate. They're rivals of my organization. They wanted to kidnap my mother to use as leverage against me." "Your organization?" Keisha repeated slowly. "What kind of organization?" "The kind that operates in the shadows," Hyun-woo said carefully. "The kind that law enforcement has been trying to dismantle for 3 generations. The kind your mother probably warned you about before you left Nigeria." So he was a criminal, a gangster, maybe even a killer. Keisha had suspected as much, but hearing it confirmed was different. She thought about the bodies on the ground last night, covered with sheets. "And your mother? Does she know what you do?" Something flickered across Hyun-woo's face. "Pain, maybe. Or regret. My mother is blind, not stupid. She knows. But she is also my mother. She loves me despite what I am. Perhaps because of what I am. I built this empire to protect people like her. Korean immigrants who came to this country with nothing and were preyed upon by everyone. The police didn't care. So my father created an organization that did. I inherited his kingdom." "That's a nice story," Keisha said, her voice hard. "But it doesn't change the fact that people died last night. And you're telling me I'm now caught up in your gang war?" "Yes," Hyun-woo said simply. He didn't apologize. Didn't try to sugarcoat it. "The Choi Syndicate saw you. They saw what you did. They'll assume you're connected to me. Which means you're a target. You and anyone close to you." Keisha's blood turned to ice. "My daughter. You're saying they'll come after my daughter?" "Possibly. Probably." Hyun-woo leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. "Which is why I brought you here. Why I've had men watching your apartment. Why I'm offering you protection." "I don't want your protection," Keisha snapped. "I want my life back. I want to drive my Uber, pay my bills, raise my daughter in peace. I didn't ask for any of this." "No, you didn't," Hyun-woo agreed. "But you made a choice last night. You could have kept driving when you saw those SUVs. You could have jumped out of the car and run. You could have saved yourself. But you didn't. You crashed your car into armed assassins to protect a blind woman you'd known for 20 minutes. What?" The question hung in the air between them. Keisha met his gaze, refusing to look away. "Because she was helpless. Because back home in Lagos, I was a nurse at General Hospital. I took an oath to protect people who cannot protect themselves. Just because I'm driving Uber now doesn't mean that oath disappeared." "An oath," Hyun-woo repeated, something like wonder in his voice. "You destroyed your car, risked your life, for an oath to a stranger." "Yes. Do you have any idea how rare that is? How many people would have done what you did?" "I don't care what other people would have done," Keisha said firmly. "I care what I did, and I don't regret it. But that doesn't mean I want to be part of your world." Hyun-woo stood and walked to the window, looking out at what appeared to be an expansive garden. "My mother hasn't stopped talking about you. She calls you her guardian angel, her lioness. She said you called her mama, like she was your own mother. Do you know that she hasn't smiled, really smiled, since my father died 3 years ago? But yesterday, even injured, even terrified, she was smiling. Because of you." Keisha didn't know what to say to that. She thought about Mrs. Park's gentle touch, the way the old woman had patted her hand in the car, the connection they'd formed in such a short time. "Your car is totaled," Hyun-woo continued, still facing the window. "Your Uber account has been flagged due to the incident report. Police have listed you as a material witness to a gang-related shooting. Your immigration status will be questioned when they realize you were at the scene. You have $3,000 in medical bills from an emergency room visit last month that you can't pay. Your rent is 5 days overdue. Your daughter's asthma medication costs $200 a month that you don't have." Keisha's heart sank with each word. How did he know all of this? Hyun-woo turned to face her, his expression unreadable. "I had my people look into you. I needed to know who you were. What kind of person risks everything for a stranger? What I found was a woman who came to America with a nursing degree and dreams. A woman who graduated but couldn't get licensed because of immigration paperwork delays. A woman who works 16-hour days driving strangers around just to keep food on the table and send money back home to Lagos. A woman who is drowning but refuses to let anyone see her struggle. Keisha felt exposed, vulnerable. Every private shame, every desperate moment laid bare before this stranger. You had no right. I had every right, Hyunwoo interrupted, his voice sharp. You saved the most important person in my world. I needed to know everything about you. And what I know is this. You are strong, you are brave, and you are stubborn. You are also in danger. Real danger. And so is your daughter. So what? Keisha's voice rose. What you want me to do? Beg you for help? Thank you for invading my privacy? I don't need your pity. I'm not offering pity, Hyunwoo said, walking back to stand in front of her. I'm offering protection. Safety. A way out of the hole you're in. But it comes with a price. Of course it did. Nothing in life was free. Keisha had learned that lesson over and over. What kind of price? Marry me. The words hit Keisha like a physical blow. She stared at him, certain she had misheard. Certain the concussion was making her hallucinate. Excuse me? You day craze? Are you mad? I'm completely serious, Hyunwoo said, and his face showed he meant it. In my world, family is sacred. Untouchable. If you become my wife, you become part of that sacred circle. No one can touch you without declaring war on me. The Choice Syndicate, or anyone else, will know that harming you means their destruction. Keisha laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. You think I'm going to marry you? A man I don't know? A criminal? Because what? You offer me protection. I'm not some desperate woman you can buy. I'm not trying to buy you, Hyunwoo said patiently. I'm offering you a solution. You need protection. My mother needs care from someone she trusts. Someone with medical training. Someone with a kind heart. You. And I need. He paused, choosing his words carefully. I need to show strength. In my world, a man with a wife and family is more dangerous than a man alone. It shows stability, planning, legacy. It makes rivals think twice. So I'm a prop? A chess piece in your gang war. Keisha's anger was rising, hot, and fierce. No, Hyunwoo said firmly. You would be my wife. My equal partner. Protected absolutely. Your daughter would have the best schools, the best healthcare. She would never have another asthma attack that you couldn't afford to treat. You would never drive Uber at 3 in the morning again. Never worry about rent or deportation or whether you're safe walking home. And what about love? Keisha challenged. What about respect? What about building something real? Love. Hyunwoo's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Love is a luxury people in our positions cannot afford. But respect? I already respect you. You proved your character last night. And as for building something real, that takes time. Maybe we build it. Maybe we don't. But at least we both survive long enough to find out. Keisha's head spun, and not just from the concussion. This was insane. Absolutely insane. She barely knew this man. He was a criminal. A gangster. Everything her mother had warned her about. Everything she had worked so hard to stay away from. But he was also right about the danger. Right about her financial situation. Right about her immigration status. Right about everything. I need time to think, Keisha said finally. This is not a decision I can make while I'm lying in bed with a concussion. Hyunwoo nodded. You have until tomorrow morning. After that, the Choice Syndicate will have had time to identify you, find your address, and make their move. I can protect you now, or I can protect your daughter after they use her to draw you out. Your choice. The cruelty of the statement made Keisha want to scream. But she knew it wasn't cruelty. It was honesty. Brutal, terrible honesty. You're a bastard. Yes, Hyunwoo agreed without emotion. But I'm a bastard who keeps his promises. And I promise you this. Marry me, and I will make you untouchable. You, your daughter, your mother in Lagos, everyone you love. No one will dare harm them. He walked toward the door, then paused. My mother would like to see you when you're feeling better. She's been asking for you constantly. She wants to thank you properly. He left without waiting for a response. Keisha sat in the silence of the luxurious room, her mind racing. She thought about Amara, about her uncertain future, about the bodies on the ground last night. She thought about Mrs. Park's gentle voice calling her brave. She thought about her own mother in Lagos, waiting for the money Keisha sent every month. She thought about the oath she had taken as a nurse. To do no harm. To protect the vulnerable. But what about protecting herself? What about protecting her daughter? Where was the line between principle and survival? The doctor returned later with food. Real food, not hospital slop. Jollof rice, plantains, grilled chicken. Nigerian food. Somehow they had known. Keisha ate mechanically, tasting nothing, her mind elsewhere. After she ate, she slept fitfully, her dreams full of crashing cars and gunfire and cold eyes that somehow held warmth when they looked at an elderly blind woman. When she woke, evening light was filtering through the curtains. There was a gentle knock on the door. Come in, Keisha called, expecting the doctor or maybe Hyunwoo. Instead, a young Korean man entered, the same one who had helped Mrs. Park into the car last night. The bodyguard. He bowed slightly. Ms. Iamide, Mrs. Park asks if you feel well enough for a short visit. She understands if you need more rest. Keisha's first instinct was to refuse. But something stopped her. The old woman had been kind to her, had connected with her in that brief car ride before everything went to hell. And honestly, Keisha needed to see her, needed to remind herself why she had made the choice she made last night. Yes, Keisha said. I'll see her. The bodyguard helped her into a wheelchair, despite her protests that she could walk. Mr. Park's orders, he said apologetically. You are to be treated as an honored guest. They wheeled her through the mansion, and Keisha couldn't help but stare. This wasn't just wealth. This was obscene wealth. Original artwork on the walls, marble floors, crystal chandeliers. This was the kind of money that bought politicians and police chiefs. The kind of money that made people disappear. They went out to a garden, and the evening air felt good on Keisha's face. The garden was beautiful, carefully maintained with both Korean and Western plants. Stone pathways wound through carefully trimmed hedges. A small koi pond bubbled peacefully in the center. Mrs. Park sat on a bench near the pond, her face turned toward the sound of the water. She wore a simple but elegant hanbok, the traditional Korean dress. Her white cane rested beside her. When she heard the wheelchair approaching, she straightened, her blind eyes searching. Keisha? She called out hopefully. Yes, Mama. Keisha replied, and was surprised by how naturally the word came. It's me. Mrs. Park's face transformed with joy. She held out her hands, and Keisha took them. The old woman's fingers traced Keisha's face gently, carefully avoiding the bandages. Tears rolled down Mrs. Park's weathered cheeks. My brave girl, Mrs. Park whispered in heavily accented English. You save me. You crash your car. You protect me like I am your own mother. Why? Why you do this? Keisha felt her own tears building. Because you needed help, Mama. Because I couldn't just let them hurt you. Mrs. Park pulled Keisha close, hugging her with surprising strength for such a frail woman. She spoke rapidly in Korean, then seemed to remember Keisha couldn't understand. She pulled back, keeping hold of Keisha's hands. I tell my son, I tell him, this girl is special. This girl has heart of warrior, heart of mother. You have daughter, yes? Yes, Mama. Amara. She's 6. Mrs. Park smiled. 6 years old. Beautiful age. My Hyunwoo was 6 when we come to America. So small. So scared. But I tell him, be brave. Be strong. We survive. Her smile faded. His father, my husband, he built empire to protect our people. But empire need blood. Need violence. I lose my husband to this empire. I lose my sight to diabetes. I lose my freedom because my son, he's so scared to lose me too. He built walls. Around me. Around his heart. She squeezed Keisha's hands. But you break through wall. You see me, not as boss's mother. Not as weak blind woman. You see me as person. As Mama. You know how long since someone see me like that? Keisha's throat tightened. Mama, I'm sorry you've been so lonely. Mrs. Park shook her head. No sorry. You give me gift. Gift of feeling human again. My son, he tell you about marriage, yes? Keisha's eyes widened. You know about that? Mrs. Park laughed, a sound like wind chimes. I am blind, not deaf. I hear everything in this house. My son, he not good with words. He say things wrong way. Make everything sound like business deal. She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. But I know my son. He not ask just anyone to marry him. He see something in you. Something he need. Something he missing. Mama, I don't know him. And he's a criminal. He hurts people. How can you ask me to? You think I don't know what my son do? Mrs. Park interrupted, her voice sharp but not unkind. You think I don't know the blood on his hands? I know. Every day I know. But I also know this. My son, he protect thousands of Korean families in this city. Families that police ignore. Families that gangs prey on. He provide jobs. He keep neighborhoods safe. Yes, he break law. Yes, he do terrible things. But he also do good things. World is not black and white, Keisha. World is gray. All gray. But marriage, Mama. That's not something to enter into lightly. Mrs. Park's expression grew serious. You are right. Marriage is sacred. In my country, in my time, many marriages start as arrangement. My marriage to my husband, we meet only 3 times before wedding. But we build love. We build respect. We build family. Not because we start with love. Because we choose to build it. Every day we choose. She touched Keisha's face again, gentle as a butterfly. My son, he need you. He not know how to say it. Men like him, they not know how to ask for help. But I see it. He needs someone strong. Someone who not afraid of him. Someone who see him as man, not as monster. You are that person. What if I can't be? Keisha whispered. What if I'm not strong enough for this world? Ah, Mrs. Park said, smiling again. But you already prove you strong enough. You crash car into killers. You protect blind woman you just meet. You raise daughter alone in foreign country. You survive when many others would break. You are strongest person I meet in long time. You just not see it yet. The old woman's words settled over Keisha like a warm blanket. She wanted to reject them, to insist that she wasn't special, wasn't strong enough for this impossible situation. But deep down, under all the fear and doubt, a small voice whispered that maybe Mrs. Park was right. I'm scared, Mama, Keisha admitted. I'm so scared. Of course you scared, Mrs. Park said matter-of-factly. Only fool not scared. But brave is not same as not scared. Brave is being scared and doing it anyway. You already know this. You showed me last night. They sat together in the garden as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Mrs. Park told stories of her life, of coming to America with nothing, of watching her husband build an empire from borrowed money and determination, of losing her sight and feeling like she lost herself. Keisha listened, and in the old woman's stories, she heard echoes of her own journey. When the bodyguard finally came to take Keisha back to her room, Mrs. Park held her hands one more time. Whatever you decide, you have my blessing. But know this, if you marry my son, you not just get husband, you get mother too. You get family. And in our world, family is everything. Family is survival. Back in her room, Keisha stared at the ceiling for hours. The pain medication made her drowsy, but her mind wouldn't stop racing. She thought about everything. Her daughter, her mother in Lagos, her destroyed car and destroyed life, the bodies on the street, the cold eyes that warmed when looking at a blind mother. Mrs. Park's gentle wisdom. What was the right choice? Was there even a right choice? Or was it just choosing between different types of wrong? She thought about her oath as a nurse. First, do no harm. But wasn't letting her daughter remain in danger doing harm? Wasn't refusing help out of pride doing harm to everyone who depended on her? Her phone, returned to her by the doctor, buzzed with a message. From her mother in Lagos. Your brother's school fees due next week. Can you help? I know you're struggling. Don't worry if you can't. We manage somehow. Keisha closed her eyes. Her family was struggling. Her daughter was vulnerable. She was one emergency away from complete disaster. And here was a man offering her a way out. A terrible, complicated, dangerous way out. But a way nonetheless. She thought about what Mrs. Park had said. About marriages that started as arrangements, but grew into love through choice. About building something day by day. About surviving in a gray world that demanded gray choices. Could she do it? Could she marry a man she barely knew? A criminal? A gangster? Could she enter a world of violence and danger? But wasn't she already in that world now? The moment she crashed her car, she entered it. The Choice Syndicate knew her face. They would come for her. The only question was whether she faced them alone or with the protection of the most powerful man in Koreatown. The next morning, Keisha woke to find new clothes laid out for her. Nigerian style, beautifully made. Someone had been paying attention. She dressed slowly, her body still aching but healing. She looked at herself in the mirror. Same face, same eyes, but somehow different. Harder, older. She made her decision. When Hyunwoo came to her room at exactly 9 o'clock, as punctual as death, she was ready. He studied her face, reading her answer before she spoke. I have conditions, Keisha said, her voice steady and strong despite the fear churning in her stomach. Hyunwoo's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Relief? Respect? Name them. First, my daughter comes first. Always. No exceptions. She never sees your business. She never gets involved. She gets to be a normal kid with a normal life. Agreed, Hyunwoo said without hesitation. Second, I'm not just your wife. I need purpose. I was a nurse. I want to help people again. I want to open a clinic. Free healthcare for immigrants who can't afford it. You fund it, I run it. Hyunwoo considered this. A clinic could be useful. Good for community relations. Makes our organization look more legitimate. Yes, agreed. Think about the impossible choices we face in life. When everything is on the line, what would you sacrifice for protection? For family? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because this story is about to take an even bigger turn. And if you're invested in Keisha's journey, hit that like button and subscribe. You won't want to miss what happens next. Third, Keisha continued, her Nigerian accent strengthening with each demand. My family in Lagos depends on me. Every month I send money home. My mother, my siblings, they need that support. I need to be able to continue helping them. And my mother visits here, safely, whenever she wants. Done, Hyunwoo said. I'll arrange for monthly transfers to your family. Whatever amount you want. And your mother can visit as often as she likes. I'll handle all the visa arrangements and travel expenses. Keisha took a deep breath. Fourth, if I'm untouchable, that protection extends beyond just me and my daughter. The African immigrant community here in LA, they struggle like I did. They're vulnerable. Preyed upon. I want your protection to cover them too. Not just Koreans. Everyone. Hyunwoo's eyebrows rose slightly. This was unexpected. He walked to the window, thinking. When he turned back, there was something new in his expression. Admiration. You're already thinking like a queen. Expanding territory. Building alliances. Creating loyalty among populations my organization hasn't touched. Smart. Very smart. Yes. Agreed. And one last thing. Keisha said, stepping closer to him, meeting his eyes without flinching. You said you respect me. Prove it. I'm not a possession. I'm not property. I'm your partner. You're equal. That means you teach me everything. Your world, your language, your business. I won't be some fool wife who doesn't know what's happening around her. If I'm going to survive in your world, I need to understand it completely. Hyunwoo studied her for a long moment. Then, for the first time since she'd met him, he smiled. Really smiled. It transformed his face, made him look younger, almost vulnerable. You are remarkable. My mother was right about you. Equal partners then. I'll teach you everything. He extended his hand. Do we have an agreement, Keisha Iamide? Keisha looked at his hand. This was it. The moment that would change everything. Once she shook his hand, there was no going back. She thought of Amara, of her mother in Lagos, of Mrs. Park's kind face, of the bodies on the street and the danger she already couldn't escape. She thought of her nursing oath, to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Maybe this was just another way of honoring that oath, protecting her daughter, her family, her community, even if it meant making a deal with the devil himself. She took his hand. His grip was firm, warm, certain. Equal partners, she said. But if you betray me, if you hurt my daughter, if you break your word, I will find a way to destroy you. I don't care how powerful you are. Hyunwoo's smile widened. I would expect nothing less. A queen should have claws. He paused. The wedding will be tomorrow. Private ceremony. My mother insists on being involved in the planning. She's already called the best tailors in Koreatown. Tomorrow. Keisha's eyes widened. That's too fast. I need time to. The Choi Syndicate moves quickly, Hyunwoo interrupted, his smile fading. The longer we wait, the more danger you're in. Once you're my wife, officially, legally, they'll back off. It's a line they won't cross without preparing for full war. But until then, you're vulnerable. Keisha wanted to argue, but she knew he was right. Fine. Tomorrow. But I want my daughter there. I need to see her first. Need to explain this to her. Already arranged, Hyunwoo said. She'll be brought here this afternoon. I've told Mrs. Chun that you had a serious car accident and are recovering here. She'll bring Amara for a visit. How you explain the rest is up to you. 3 hours later, Keisha heard the sound she'd been desperately waiting for. Small running footsteps. The door burst open and Amara flew into the room like a tiny tornado, her braided hair bouncing, her face a mixture of relief and worry. Mama, she cried, launching herself onto the bed. Keisha caught her, ignoring the pain in her ribs, holding her daughter tight enough to convince herself this was real. Amara was here. Safe. Whole. Hey, my lioness cub, Keisha whispered, breathing in the familiar scent of her daughter's hair. I missed you so much. You were in an accident. Amara pulled back, her 6-year-old eyes scanning her mother's bandaged face with concern. Does it hurt? Mrs. Chin said you helped someone and got hurt, but you're okay now. Are you okay, Mama? I'm okay, baby. Mama is okay. Keisha kissed her daughter's forehead, her cheeks, her nose, making Amara giggle. The accident was scary, but I'm healing. And you know what? The people I helped, they're taking care of us now. They want to help us. Amara's eyes went wide as she looked around the luxurious room. Is this their house? Mama, it's like a castle. Are they rich? Very rich, baby. And very kind. The lie tasted bitter on Keisha's tongue, but she pushed forward. Amara, Mama needs to talk to you about something important. Something big. Amara's face grew serious. Even at 6, she understood when her mother needed her to be grown up. Okay, Mama. Keisha chose her words carefully, aware that Mrs. Chun was waiting outside the door. The lady I helped in the accident, her name is Mrs. Park. She's a grandmother, and she's very nice. And she has a son. His name is Hyunwoo. He's very grateful that I helped his mother. That's good, Amara said, nodding seriously. He's so grateful that he's offered to help us. To give us a place to live. To make sure you have the best doctors for your asthma. To help us not worry about money anymore. Amara's eyes lit up. Really? So we don't have to leave our apartment. Actually, Keisha said slowly, we would live here. In this house. With Mrs. Park and her son. We would be like, family. Family. Amara tilted her head, confused. But they're not our family. They could be, Keisha said. Amara, you know how some of your friends have mommies and daddies? And we're just us two, which is perfect because we're a team, right? Right. Amara agreed, though uncertainty crept into her voice. Well, Hyunwoo, Mrs. Park's son, he asked if maybe we could all be a family together. If maybe I could marry him, and we could all take care of each other. Amara was quiet for a long moment, processing this information with the seriousness of a child trying to understand adult concepts. Would he be my daddy? Keisha's heart clenched. He could be, if you wanted him to be. But no one will ever replace you and me, okay? We're still our own special team. This would just mean we have more people on our team. Do you love him? Amara asked, her voice small. The question pierced Keisha like a knife. She wanted to be honest with her daughter, but how did you explain survival to a 6-year-old? How did you explain that sometimes love wasn't the most important thing? I don't know him well enough to love him yet, baby. But I respect him. And his mother, Mrs. Park, she's wonderful. She's kind and warm, and she already told me she wants to be like a grandmother to you. I never had a grandmother before, Amara said thoughtfully. Grandma in Lagos is far away. This would be a different kind of grandmother. One you could see every day. She would love you so much, Amara. In this house, you would have your own room. A big room. With anything you wanted. And you'd go to a great school. And you'd never have to hear Mama worry about money again. Amara studied her mother's face with wisdom beyond her years. Are you scared, Mama? Keisha decided on honesty. Yes, baby. I'm very scared. This is a big change. But sometimes we have to be brave and try new things. And I believe this will be good for us. For you. Okay, Amara said simply. If you think it's good, then I trust you, Mama. You always know what's best. And maybe it'll be nice to have more family. Keisha pulled her daughter close again, fighting back tears. Children were so trusting, so willing to believe their parents had all the answers. She prayed she was making the right choice. The rest of the afternoon was spent introducing Amara to Mrs. Park, and the meeting exceeded every hope Keisha had dared to have. The old woman's face lit up like sunshine when she heard the patter of small feet approaching. She held out her hands, and Amara, after a shy moment, took them. You must be Amara, Mrs. Park said in her accented English, feeling the child's face gently. Your mama told me about you. She said you were her lioness cub. So brave. So strong. I have asthma, Amara said matter-of-factly. But Mama says I'm still strong anyway. Mrs. Park laughed, delighted. Your mama is right. Strength is not about body. It's about heart. And I think you have very big heart, like your mama. Within an hour, Amara was sitting beside Mrs. Park in the garden, telling her stories about school and her friends, completely at ease. The old woman listened with genuine interest, asking questions, laughing at Amara's jokes. Keisha watched from a distance, her heart both breaking and healing at the same time. Her daughter deserved this. Deserved stability, security, family. Even if that family came with shadows and blood money. That evening, after Mrs. Chun had taken Amara home with promises that she would return tomorrow for this special family ceremony, Keisha found herself alone with her thoughts again. The wedding was tomorrow. Tomorrow she would become Mrs. Park. Tomorrow she would enter a world she didn't fully understand. Tomorrow everything would change. A soft knock interrupted her spiral of anxiety. Come in, she called. Hyunwoo entered, carrying a large box. My mother insisted I bring this to you personally. She said it's bad luck for the groom to see the wedding dress before the ceremony. But since this is not a traditional situation, she's making an exception. He set the box on the bed and opened it. Inside was the most beautiful hanbok Keisha had ever seen. Deep burgundy silk embroidered with golden phoenixes, traditional Korean wedding colors. But next to it was another outfit. Nigerian aso-ebi in rich purple and gold, with an elaborate geli head wrap. 2 cultures, 2 traditions, somehow perfectly balanced. My mother wanted you to honor both your heritage and ours, Hyunwoo explained. She said a woman should never forget where she comes from, even as she steps into something new. Keisha touched the fabrics, overwhelmed. The care, the thought, the respect in this gesture was more than she had expected. Your mother is extraordinary. Yes, Hyunwoo agreed simply. She is. He paused, seeming uncertain for the first time since Keisha had met him. May I sit? Keisha nodded, and he took the chair by the window. For a moment, they sat in silence. Finally, Hyunwoo spoke. I know this is not what you wanted. Not how you imagined your life would go. If I could offer you a different solution, one that didn't require marriage, I would. But in my world, this is the only way to guarantee your safety. Marriage makes you untouchable in ways that money or promises cannot. I understand, Keisha said quietly. I don't like it, but I understand it. I want you to know that I will honor the terms we agreed to. You will be my equal partner. I will teach you everything you need to know to survive in this world. I will protect your daughter as if she were my own. And I will never force you to do anything you're not willing to do. This marriage may have started as a business arrangement, but that doesn't mean it has to remain only that. Keisha met his eyes. What do you mean? I mean that perhaps, over time, we can build something real. My mother's marriage to my father started as an arrangement. They met 3 times before their wedding. But they chose, every day, to build love and respect. I'm not asking you to love me tomorrow. I'm just asking you to be open to the possibility that one day, maybe, you could. The vulnerability in his voice surprised her. This man who commanded an empire, who had killed without hesitation, who held the power of life and death over thousands of people, was asking her, essentially, for hope. For a chance at something more than a contract. I can't promise you love, Keisha said honestly. But I can promise you honesty. I can promise you loyalty, as long as you keep your word. And I can promise you that I will try to build something, whatever that something becomes. Hyunwoo nodded, seeming satisfied with that answer. That's all I ask. He stood to leave, then paused at the door. My mother told me something today. She said you called her mama naturally, without thinking. She said in all the years she's been in this country, no one outside our family has ever called her that. It made her cry. Happy tears, she insisted. I just wanted you to know that you've already given her something precious. Something I couldn't give her despite all my power and money. You gave her connection. Humanity. Thank you. Before Keisha could respond, He was gone, leaving her alone with the wedding clothes and a confusing tangle of emotions she didn't have names for. The next morning arrived far too quickly. Keisha was awakened by a team of women, Korean and African, who swept into her room like a well-coordinated army. They did her hair, her makeup, helped her into the wedding garments. First the hanbok, with its elegant lines and weight of tradition. They taught her how to walk in it, how to bow properly, the gestures of respect required in a Korean ceremony. Then they helped her change into the Nigerian asoebi, wrapping the gele with expert hands, teaching her how to hold her head high so it wouldn't slip. They adorned her with jewelry, gold that caught the light and made her look like royalty. When they finally let her see herself in the mirror, Keisha barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked powerful, regal, like someone who belonged in this world of wealth and danger. The ceremony was held in the mansion's garden, the same place where she had talked with Mrs. Park. It was small, intimate. Only Hyunwoo's closest associates, about 20 people in total, and Amara, dressed in a miniature hanbok that made her look like a little princess. Mrs. Park sat in the place of honor, her blind eyes tracking the movement of people by sound, her face radiant with joy. When Keisha entered, guided by two of Hyunwoo's men who served as ceremonial escorts, Mrs. Park's expression crumbled into happy tears. The ceremony itself was a blur. There was a traditional Korean paebik, where Keisha bowed to Mrs. Park as her new mother-in-law. The old woman placed her hands on Keisha's head in blessing, whispering in Korean words that Keisha didn't understand but felt in her soul. Then there were Nigerian elements, blessings in Yoruba that one of the women translated, a traditional breaking of kola nut to symbolize unity. Hyunwoo struggled adorably with the Yoruba pronunciations, and despite the seriousness of the moment, Keisha found herself laughing. Their eyes met, and something passed between them. Not love, not yet, but recognition, understanding. Two people bound together by necessity, trying to make the best of an impossible situation. When it came time for the vows, they had written their own. Hyunwoo went first, his voice steady and clear. I vow to protect you and your daughter with my life. To honor your strength and respect your intelligence. To see you as my equal in all things. In my world, loyalty is everything, and you have mine, from this day until my last breath. Keisha took a deep breath and spoke her truth. I vow to stand with you, not behind you. To bring light into dark places. To protect your mother as my own. To never forget who I am or where I come from. And to build with you, day by day, something that honors both our worlds. Ian ito ba fei ran me. You fei ran a1 temi. What does that mean? Hyunwoo asked softly. It means whoever loves me will love my people. All of them. Then I will learn to love them all, Hyunwoo promised. The officiant, a Korean elder, pronounced them husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. Hyunwoo stepped forward, and for a moment they just looked at each other. Then Keisha, deciding to take control of this one thing, pulled him close and kissed him. It was brief, chaste, but it was her choice. Her terms. When they pulled apart, she saw surprise in his eyes, and maybe, just maybe, a hint of admiration. Applause erupted from the small gathering. Amara cheered loudly, making everyone laugh. Mrs. Park was crying openly now, reaching out to touch both of them, blessing them in rapid Korean. The reception was surprisingly joyful. There was food, lots of it, both Korean and Nigerian dishes side by side. Jollof rice next to bibimbap, plantains beside kimchi. Keisha watched as Hyunwoo's hardened criminals tentatively tried Nigerian food and found they liked it. She watched as the barriers between the two cultures, her new family and her heritage, began to dissolve in the simple act of sharing a meal. Mrs. Park insisted on tasting everything, declaring each dish more delicious than the last. We should serve this at our restaurants, she kept saying, delighted. As the sun began to set, Keisha found herself on the balcony with Hyunwoo, watching the city lights come on below. They stood in comfortable silence for a while before he spoke. This is strange, he admitted. I didn't expect to feel hopeful today, but I do. Keisha looked out at Los Angeles sprawling beneath them, a city of lights and shadows, much like the life she had just committed to. Hope is dangerous, she said quietly. Hope makes you vulnerable. Perhaps, Hyunwoo agreed. But maybe that's not always a bad thing. My mother once told me that a man who has nothing to lose is terrifying, but a man who has something to lose is motivated. You and your daughter, you give me something to lose. That makes me more careful, more strategic, stronger. Is that what we are to you? Keisha asked, not accusingly, just curious. Strategic advantages? Hyunwoo considered the question seriously. Today, maybe that's part of it. But ask me that question in a month. In 6 months. In a year. I think the answer will change. I hope it changes. He turned to look at her. My father used to say that the best partnerships are built on mutual need that grows into mutual respect that becomes something more. We have the need. Today we formalize the respect. What comes next is up to us. Before Keisha could respond, Amara burst onto the balcony, slightly out of breath. Mama. Grandma Park wants to teach me a Korean song. Can I go with her? Keisha's heart squeezed at hearing her daughter call Mrs. Park Grandma so naturally. Of course, baby. Be gentle with her. Remember she can't see. I know, Amara said seriously. I'll hold her hand and tell her where things are, like you taught me. She ran off, her little hanbok trailing behind her. She's adapting quickly, Hyunwoo observed. Children are resilient, Keisha said. They accept what adults complicate. To her, this is just having more family who love her. She doesn't see the shadows yet. We'll make sure she never has to, Hyunwoo promised. That's what all of this is for. To create a world where the innocent can remain innocent. Over the following weeks, Keisha's life transformed in ways she couldn't have imagined. True to his word, Hyunwoo began teaching her about his organization. Not everything at once, but gradually, letting her see the layers of his empire. The legitimate businesses that fronted the illegal ones. The protection rackets that actually did protect Korean shop owners from worse predators. The smuggling operations that brought in both contraband and desperate immigrants seeking better lives. It was complicated, morally gray in ways that made Keisha's head hurt. But she couldn't deny that there was a strange kind of order to it. A code. Rules that, if followed, actually created a kind of safety for the community. She also began Korean language lessons with Mrs. Park, who proved to be a patient and enthusiastic teacher. They spent hours together every day, Keisha learning not just the language but the culture, the history, the nuances of the world she had married into. Mrs. Park, in turn, asked endless questions about Nigeria, about Lagos, about Keisha's childhood and traditions. They learned from each other, and in the learning, they grew closer. Amara thrived. She started at an exclusive private school where her asthma was managed by a full-time nurse. She made friends easily, her natural charm winning over children who came from wealth that had taken generations to build. She learned Korean phrases from Mrs. Park and taught her Nigerian songs in return. The old woman and the young girl formed a bond that was beautiful to witness. But not everything was peaceful. One evening, 3 weeks after the wedding, Keisha witnessed her first real glimpse of Hyunwoo's world unfiltered. She had been in his office, studying Korean characters, when 3 of his men burst in, dragging a bloodied man between them. Boss, one of them said urgently in English, for Keisha's benefit. We caught him trying to plant a bomb at the restaurant on 5th Street. He's Choi Syndicate. Hyunwoo's transformation was instantaneous. The man who had been patiently helping Keisha with her pronunciation vanished, replaced by someone cold and lethal. He stood, walked over to the captive, and grabbed his face, forcing eye contact. Who sent you? Hyunwoo asked in Korean, then English. The man spat blood at his feet. Your African whore made you weak. Choi will destroy you and everything you love. What happened next made Keisha's blood freeze. Hyunwoo's fist connected with the man's jaw, with such force the crack echoed through the office. The man's head snapped back, and he would have fallen if the guards weren't holding him up. My wife is not weak, Hyunwoo said, his voice deadly quiet. She is the reason you're still breathing. Because she has reminded me that information is more valuable than revenge. So you're going to tell me everything about Choi's plans, and then I'm going to send you back to him as a message. The interrogation that followed was brutal. Keisha wanted to look away, wanted to leave, but she forced herself to watch. This was the world she had chosen. The man she had married. She couldn't hide from it. When the man finally broke, giving up locations, names, plans, Hyunwoo turned to his guards. Patch him up. Send him back to Choi with a message. Anyone who comes after my family will be returned in pieces. He gets returned whole this time as a courtesy. Next time, there won't be a next time. After the men were gone, the office fell silent. Hyunwoo stood with his back to Keisha, his shoulders tense. You should go, he said quietly. You shouldn't have seen that. No, Keisha said, standing up. Her legs felt like water, but she forced herself to walk over to him. You promised to teach me everything. That includes this. The violence. The reality of what you do. He turned to face her, searching her eyes for disgust, for fear, for rejection. And, what do you see when you look at me now? Keisha took a deep breath. I see a man who protects what's his. I see someone who operates in a world with different rules than the one I knew. I see violence that I don't like, but understand is sometimes necessary in your world. She paused. I also see someone who showed restraint when he could have killed. Who chose information over revenge, because I'm here. That's not nothing, Hyunwoo. Something in his expression softened. You're not afraid of me? Oh, I'm terrified, Keisha admitted. But fear and understanding can exist together. I'm learning that. He reached out hesitantly and touched her face, his knuckles still red from the punch he'd thrown. You continue to surprise me. Good, Keisha said. A wife should keep her husband on his toes. It was the first time she had referred to him as her husband without prompting, and she saw the impact of that word on his face. He pulled her close, not romantically, just holding her, as if he needed to confirm she was real and still there despite what she'd witnessed. The next major test came a month later when Keisha's clinic opened. She had worked tirelessly on it, using her nursing knowledge to create something that would genuinely help people. Free healthcare for immigrants, no questions asked, no papers required, just care. The opening day drew hundreds of people. Korean, Nigerian, Ethiopian, Mexican, families from every corner of the immigrant experience. They came with sick children, with chronic conditions ignored too long, with fears and hopes in equal measure. Keisha moved through them like she had at Lagos General Hospital, confident and capable, the language of medicine universal even when words weren't. She diagnosed, she treated, she comforted. And people responded to her warmth, her genuine care. Hyunwoo watched from the shadows, his men positioned strategically around the building. At one point, Keisha caught his eye and smiled. He smiled back, and she realized it was getting easier to read him, to see past the cold exterior to the man underneath. But the Choi Syndicate wasn't done. One evening, as Keisha was locking up the clinic, 3 men approached. Not Hyunwoo's men. She knew immediately from their body language, from the way they moved, that they were a threat. Mrs. Park, one of them said, his English heavily accented. Choi sends his regards. He says your clinic is very nice. Be a shame if something happened to it. Keisha's heart pounded, but she remembered what Hyunwoo had taught her. Show no fear. Project Strength. This clinic serves the community. Your community too. Hurting it hurts your own people. The leader laughed. You think we care? You think putting on a nurse costume makes you one of us? You're just an African bitch who married up. You don't belong here. The casual racism ignited something in Keisha. All the times she'd been dismissed, belittled, told she didn't belong somewhere. All the struggles of being an immigrant, of fighting for respect, of proving her worth. It all came boiling up. You're right, she said, her voice dropping low and dangerous, her Nigerian accent coming through strong. I don't belong here. I belong everywhere I choose to be. And I choose to be here. This clinic, this community, me, we are all under park protection. You want to test that? Go ahead. But know that when you do, Nami and my husband go deal with you. And trust me, you don't want that walla. She pulled out her phone, never breaking eye contact, and made one call. In Korean, because Hyunwoo had taught her the phrase specifically for this purpose. Trouble at the clinic. 3 Choi men. Come now. Within 2 minutes, cars screeched up. Within 3 minutes, Hyunwoo's men had the 3 would-be intimidators on their knees. Within 5 minutes, Hyunwoo himself arrived, his face a mask of cold fury. He didn't even look at the Choi men first. He looked at Keisha. Are you hurt? No, she said, proud that her voice didn't shake. But they threatened the clinic. Now Hyunwoo turned to the 3 men. What he said to them in Korean was too fast for Keisha to follow, but she understood the tone. It was the voice of absolute authority, of promised retribution. The 3 men's faces went white with fear. When Hyunwoo finished speaking, he gave a sharp command, and his men dragged the 3 away. He walked over to Keisha, his eyes scanning her carefully, looking for any sign of harm or trauma. You handled that well. Your Korean was perfect. You taught me well, Keisha replied, and she meant it. Over the past month, he had drilled her on emergency phrases, on how to carry herself, on the psychology of power and respect that governed his world. She had been a good student. Come, he said, gesturing to his car. It's not safe for you to drive alone tonight. I'll take you home. In the car, the tension slowly drained from Keisha's body. The adrenaline crash left her shaking. Hyunwoo noticed and reached over, taking her hand. It was the first time he had initiated physical contact beyond formal necessity. His hand was warm, strong, reassuring. You were brave tonight, he said quietly. But it shouldn't have happened. I'll increase security around the clinic. And I'll send another message to Choi. A stronger one. Will there ever be peace? Keisha asked. Or is it always going to be like this? Threats and violence and fear. Hyunwoo was quiet for a long moment. In my world, peace is temporary. It's the pause between conflicts. But I can promise you this. I will make those pauses longer. I will make the walls around you higher. And anyone who breaks through them will regret it for whatever short time they have left to live. It wasn't the answer Keisha wanted, but it was honest. She appreciated that about him. He never lied to her, never sugar-coated the reality of their life. It was brutal, but it was real. That night, after Amara was asleep and Mrs. Park had retired to her rooms, Keisha found herself unable to sleep. She wandered through the mansion, still getting used to its vast spaces. She found Hyunwoo in his study, papers spread across his desk, working late as he always did. Can't sleep, he asked without looking up. Too much adrenaline still, Keisha admitted. She sat in one of the leather chairs across from his desk. Can I ask you something? Always. Do you ever regret it? This life? This world you live in? Hyunwoo set down his pen and finally looked at her. Really looked at her. Every day, he said, and the honesty in his voice struck her. I regret every violent act. Every threat I've had to make. Every line I've crossed. But I don't regret the why behind it. I built this empire to protect people. To give them safety when the system failed them. If I have to become a monster to do that, then that's the price I pay. But who protects you? Keisha asked softly. Who takes care of the man behind the monster? The question seemed to catch him off guard. He opened his mouth, closed it, then smiled sadly. No one has asked me that in a very long time. My mother tries, in her way, but she can't see the weight I carry. She only hears it in my voice. Keisha stood and walked around the desk. She placed her hands on his shoulders, feeling the tension coiled there like steel cables. You're allowed to be tired, Hyunwoo. You're allowed to be human. He reached up and covered one of her hands with his. When I'm with you, with my mother, with Amara, I remember how to be human. You've given me that gift. All three of you. Something shifted in that moment. The space between them, which had been defined by transaction and necessity, opened up into something else. Something softer, more real. Keisha felt it, and she could see in his eyes that he felt it too. We're building something, she said. Like your mother said. Day by day. Yes, Hyunwoo agreed. We are. The weeks turned into months. Keisha settled into her role not just as Hyunwoo's wife, but as a power in her own right. The clinic expanded to 2 locations, then 3. She negotiated with other community leaders, building bridges between the African and Korean populations that had previously existed in parallel without truly connecting. She learned to navigate the complex politics of Koreatown's underworld, understanding who held what power and why. She also continued her Korean lessons with Mrs. Park, and their relationship deepened into something truly maternal. The old woman taught her not just language, but wisdom. How to read people. How to carry power with grace. How to be strong without being harsh. Amara flourished in ways that made Keisha's heart sing. Her daughter's asthma was under control with proper medication. She excelled in school. She had friends, stability, security. She called Hyunwoo Baba, the Korean word for father, and he responded with a tenderness that surprised everyone who knew him only as the cold boss of the park organization. 6 months after the wedding, Keisha's mother came to visit from Lagos. The reunion was tearful and joyful. Her mother, who had worried so much about her daughter's struggles in America, was shocked by the transformation. The mansion, the security, the obvious wealth. My daughter, her mother said in Yoruba, you have done well. But are you happy? They were sitting in the garden, the same place where Keisha had made so many important decisions. Keisha thought about the question carefully. I am content, Mama. I am safe. Amara is thriving. I have purpose. I help people. Is that happiness? I don't know, but it's more than I had before. Her mother studied her face. And this man, this husband, does he treat you well? He treats me with respect, Keisha said. He listens to me. He values my opinion. He protects us fiercely. He is teaching me to be strong in ways I didn't know I could be. But do you love him? Keisha sighed. I'm learning to. It's not the love from the romance novels, Mama. It's something slower, quieter, built on shared experience and mutual respect. But I think, maybe, it's becoming real. Her mother nodded wisely. Sometimes the strongest love starts small and grow deep roots. Your father and I, we were not passionate lovers at first, but we chose each other every day, and that choosing became love. That evening, there was a dinner in honor of Keisha's mother. Hyunwoo had invited members of both the Korean and Nigerian communities, creating a fusion celebration that would have been unthinkable 6 months ago. The two cultures mixed and mingled, finding common ground in food, in laughter, in shared stories of immigration and struggle. Watching it unfold, watching the barriers dissolve, Keisha felt something close to pride. This was her doing. Her vision. She had taken the protection Hyunwoo offered and built something larger, something that genuinely helped people. The clinic, the cultural exchanges, the sense of community. She was making a difference. Later that night, as the celebration wound down, Hyunwoo found her on the balcony again, their spot for important conversations. Your mother is impressive, he said. I see where you get your strength. She sacrificed everything to give me opportunities, Keisha said. Working multiple jobs, going without. Also, I could go to nursing school. I used to think I failed her by ending up driving Uber instead of working as a nurse. But now, with the clinics, I'm finally honoring her sacrifice. You honor her by being who you are, Hyunwoo said. Strong, compassionate, brilliant. You've changed everything in 6 months. My organization is stronger because you've built alliances I could never have built. The community respects us more because they see the genuine good we do through your clinics. You've made us legitimate in ways money never could. Keisha corrected gently. We've made us legitimate. This is a partnership, remember? Hyunwoo smiled. Yes, a partnership. He paused, then said something that surprised her. I've been thinking about succession, about the future, about what happens to the organization when I'm gone. That's morbid, Keisha said, frowning. It's realistic, Hyunwoo countered. In my business, tomorrow is never guaranteed. And I've realized something. If something happens to me, I want you to lead. Not my lieutenants. You. You have the vision, the intelligence, the respect of both communities. You could unite them in ways I never could. Keisha stared at him. You're serious. Completely. I've already made it official in the documentation. You are my heir, my successor, equal partner in truth, not just in name. The weight of that trust, that faith, settled over Keisha like a mantle. 6 months ago, she had been a struggling Uber driver. Now she was the designated heir to a criminal empire. The transformation was dizzying. I don't know what to say, she admitted. Say you'll protect what we've built, Hyunwoo said. Say you'll keep my mother safe. Say you'll continue the work you've started. That's all I ask. I promise, Keisha said, and she meant it. I promise all of that. He pulled her close then, and this time when he kissed her, it wasn't for show or ceremony. It was real, genuine, full of feeling that had been building slowly over months of shared struggle and growing trust. When they pulled apart, both of them were breathing hard, surprised by the intensity. I think, Hyunwoo said quietly, I'm falling in love with my wife. Keisha smiled, touching his face gently. I think your wife is falling in love with you too. Finally, what does true partnership look like to you? Is it built on love first or respect first? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and tell me where you are watching from, besties. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button as you do so. 8 months after the wedding, everything changed one final time. The call came at 2 in the morning. Hyunwoo's phone rang with the emergency tone that meant crisis. Keisha woke instantly, her body trained now to respond to danger with alertness instead of panic. What is it? She asked as Hyunwoo answered in rapid Korean. His face went white, then red with rage. He barked orders into the phone, his voice like steel on steel. When he hung up, he turned to Keisha, and she saw something she had never seen before in his eyes. Fear. The Choi Syndicate, he said, his voice tight with controlled fury. They've made their move. Not against us directly. They've hit 3 of our businesses simultaneously. Burn them. And they've issued a challenge. A meeting. Tomorrow night. To end this once and for all. It's a trap, Keisha said immediately. They want to kill you. Of course it's a trap, Hyunwoo agreed. But I can't refuse. If I don't go, I look weak. They'll keep pushing. Keep attacking. Eventually they'll get to you. To Amara. To my mother. The only way to end this is to face them. Then we face them together, Keisha said, and his head snapped toward her. Absolutely not. You stay here where it's safe. Safe? Keisha laughed, but there was no humor in it. You just said they're escalating. If you die tomorrow night, how long do you think we stay safe? How long before they come for your mother? For me? For Amara? No, Hyunwoo. We're partners. Equals. That means we face threats together. They argued for an hour, but Keisha was immovable. Finally, Hyunwoo gave in, but with conditions. She would be armed. She would stay back with additional protection. She would follow his orders without question. Keisha agreed, understanding that in matters of tactical combat, his experience trumped her stubbornness. The next day was spent in preparation. Hyunwoo's men moved with military precision, checking weapons, planning routes, preparing contingencies. Keisha spent the day with Mrs. Park and Amara, trying to act normal even though fear ate at her insides. Mrs. Park knew something was wrong. The old woman might be blind, but she missed nothing. You are afraid, she said when they were alone in the garden. I can hear it in your breathing. There's trouble tonight, Keisha admitted. Hyunwoo has to meet with rivals. It could be dangerous. Mrs. Park's face crumpled with worry. This is what I feared. This is why I wanted him to leave this life. But he cannot. The Empire demands blood, always blood. I won't let anything happen to him, Keisha promised. I swear it, Mama. The old woman grasped her hands. You have become the daughter I always wanted. The strength my son needed. Promise me, whatever happens tonight, you will survive. You will protect Amara. You will take care of yourself. Promise me. I promise, Keisha said, tears threatening. But we're all coming back. All of us. That evening, Keisha dressed carefully. Dark clothes, practical shoes. Hyunwoo had given her a gun, taught her to shoot over the past months. She prayed she wouldn't need to use it. They left in a convoy of 3 cars, heavily armed men in each vehicle. The meeting location was a warehouse in neutral territory, equidistant between Park and Choi Holdings. As they drove, Hyunwoo held Keisha's hand. If things go wrong, he said quietly. If it looks like I won't make it, you run. You get out and you run. My men have orders to protect you first. We're not having this conversation, Keisha said firmly. Because nothing is going wrong. We're going to negotiate. We're going to find a solution. And we're going home to our family. The warehouse was exactly as ominous as Keisha expected. Dim lighting. Shadows everywhere. Perfect for an ambush. The Choi Syndicate was already there, 20 men strong. Their leader, Choi Dong-woo, was an older man, scarred and hard, wearing expensive clothes that couldn't hide his violent nature. Hyunwoo's men took positions around the perimeter. Keisha stayed back as agreed, but close enough to hear everything. The 2 bosses faced each other in the center of the warehouse like gunslingers in an old western. You brought your wife? Choi said in English, smirking at Keisha. How touching. The mighty Park, hiding behind an African woman's skirts. My wife is here because she chooses to be, Hyunwoo said coldly. She is my equal partner. Something you would understand if you had ever respected anyone in your miserable life. The insult landed. Choi's face twisted with rage. I will enjoy killing you. And then I will enjoy your wife. After I burn down everything you built. You can try, Hyunwoo said. But you won't succeed. Because I'm not the one who's been playing desperate. You're losing territory. Losing money. Losing respect. Your own men are defecting to me because they see a sinking ship. This attack? This meeting? It's your last gasp before you drown. Choi's hand moved toward his jacket. Everything happened at once. Guns came out on both sides. Shouts in Korean. The warehouse exploded into chaos. But Keisha saw something others didn't. Movement in the shadows behind Hyunwoo. Someone Choi had hidden, waiting for this exact moment. An assassin with a rifle, taking aim at her husband's back. She didn't think. She just moved. Ran forward, screaming, Hyunwoo, down. In Korean, the words he had taught her for exactly this situation. She pulled her own gun, aimed at the shadow, and fired. The shot was deafening. The shadow fell. But not before his gun went off too. The bullet meant for Hyunwoo's heart hit Keisha's shoulder instead. The impact spun her around, dropped her to the concrete floor. Pain exploded through her body, white-hot and all-consuming. She heard Hyunwoo screaming her name, heard more gunfire. Then everything went dark. She woke in a hospital room, the second time in less than a year that violence had put her there. But this time felt different. This time, she had chosen the violence, had run toward it, instead of crashing into it accidentally. Hyunwoo was beside her bed, and he looked terrible, exhausted, terrified, relieved. When he saw her eyes open, he grabbed her hand like a drowning man grabbing a rope. You're awake, he said, his voice cracking. You're okay. The doctor said you'll be okay. The assassin? Keisha croaked, her throat dry. Dead. You killed him. Saved my life. Hyunwoo's eyes were wet. You ran toward a man with a rifle. You stepped between me and a bullet. Why would you do something so stupid? So brave? So impossibly selfless? Because I love you, Keisha said simply. Because you're my husband. My partner. Because I choose you. Every day, I choose you. Hyunwoo broke then. This man who never showed weakness, who led with an iron fist, who commanded absolute respect through fear and power, he broke. He put his head down on her hospital bed and sobbed. Great, wrenching sobs that shook his whole body. Keisha ran her good hand through his hair, soothing him. It's okay. We're okay. We survived. I love you, Hyunwoo said through his tears. I love you so much it terrifies me. I can't lose you. I can't. You won't, Keisha promised. I'm untouchable, remember? You made sure of that. He laughed through his tears. Yes, untouchable. My untouchable queen who runs toward bullets. Over the next few days, the full story emerged. The shootout at the warehouse had ended with Choi Dong-woo dead, killed by Hyunwoo's men. The Choi syndicate, leaderless and broken, had surrendered. Many of their men had defected to the Park organization. The gang war was over. Peace, fragile but real, had settled over Koreatown. Mrs. Park visited every day, holding Keisha's hand, crying tears of gratitude and relief. Amara came, scared at first by the hospital and her mother's injury, but reassured by Keisha's smiles and jokes. Even Keisha's mother extended her stay, refusing to leave until her daughter was fully healed. 6 months later, Keisha stood in her third clinic, the largest yet, at its grand opening. Her shoulder had healed, leaving only a scar that she wore like a badge of honor. The clinic served over 1,000 patients a month now. Free healthcare, no questions asked, funded by the Park organization's legitimate businesses, which had expanded significantly. Hyunwoo stood beside her, his hand on the small of her back. Amara was there, now 7 years old, proud as anything to watch her mother cut the ribbon. Mrs. Park was there too, beaming with pride, holding the hand of Keisha's mother, the two grandmothers having formed their own unbreakable bond. The crowd was massive. Korean faces, African faces, Mexican, Ethiopian, every shade and culture that made up Los Angeles's immigrant tapestry. They had all come because Keisha had touched their lives, healed them, protected them, united them. As Keisha gave her speech, talking about community and healing and the power of standing together, she caught Hyunwoo's eye. He smiled at her, that genuine smile that still surprised her every time she saw it. She smiled back, remembering the terrified Uber driver she had been a year ago. That woman had crashed her car to save a stranger, had made an impossible choice to marry a criminal for protection, had fought her way through fear and violence to build something beautiful. She was no longer that woman. She was Keisha Iamide Park, queen of Koreatown, bridge between cultures, healer and warrior, wife and mother, untouchable, and she had never been more herself. That night, as she and Hyunwoo stood on their balcony, watching the city lights, he pulled her close. Do you ever regret it? He asked. That night you crashed your car? Everything that came after. Keisha thought about the question, about the struggles and the pain, about the fear and the violence, but also about Mrs. Park's laughter, about Amara's security and happiness, about the thousands of people her clinics had helped, about the love that had grown between her and the man holding her. No, she said finally. I don't regret it. Because that crash led me here. To this family. To this purpose. To this life. It wasn't the life I planned. But it's the life I was meant to live. We built something beautiful from the ashes, Hyun-woo said softly. You and me. Together. Yes, Keisha agreed, leaning into his embrace. Together. Untouchable. And there, under the stars, the African woman who became a Korean mafia queen kissed her husband and chose, once again, to build their future. One day at a time. One choice at a time. Together. So tell me, besties, what did you think of Keisha's incredible journey? From Uber driver to untouchable queen, she showed us what it means to be truly brave. If this story moved you, inspired you, or kept you on the edge of your seat, smash that like button right now. Drop a comment telling us what you loved most about Keisha's transformation. And don't forget to subscribe because we have more incredible stories coming your way. Stories of survival, transformation, and the impossible choices that define us. Thank you for staying until the very end. Until next time, stay strong, stay brave, and remember that sometimes the crash that destroys your car might just be the beginning of your greatest transformation.